Yeah, let's get away. I think it's a walleye. No, it's a sucker.
We're here at the Governor's Cup in Colchester, Windermere Way Fishing Access, and this is the 8th celebration of bringing elected officials together to celebrate our mutual interest in swimmable, drinkable, fishable waters. And so it's a fun way to get people together and share points of view without ties and all the confines of normal political and policy discourse, and with fishing poles in our hands instead of pens and paper. It's a good time.
We do not have any fish yet. It's a big problem. All right.
This year the legislature passed a water quality bill, H.35, passed both the House and the Senate. Not very many dissenting votes. The governor is stated he's going to sign it.
You know, H.35 is a pretty momentous piece of legislation. It may be the most significant piece of water legislation in the last 2 to 3 decades, if not ever, in the state of Vermont's history. And it really tries to recognize the fact that we do have challenges in water quality, particularly in Lake Champlain, but not Lake Champlain alone. And it asks all the various sectors of our community to step up and make their contribution to the solution.
I think what you're going to see is that there's going to be more work with the agriculture and development community to make sure that we prevent phosphorus runoff into the lake. That really is one of the biggest challenges that we face in the algae blooms. And to the extent that we can, we're going to make investments in our roads so that we can prevent runoff from the roads that also causes pollution.
H.35's premise is good. I mean, we need to do more to clean the lake, especially with the phosphorus. The main issue with H.35 is, at least currently, its structure forces most of the costs right on your growth centers.
Our main concern is many of the costs are passed down to the users. As you continue to push the costs down from the federal to the state to the user level, as the core service area cost goes up, you drive people into the countryside. It's all about money. And then, you encourage forest defragmentation. We're in, favor of compact villages surrounded by rural countryside. And as the cost is borne more and more by the people with sewer systems, then, if the costs go up, it's America. People will go where the costs are less.
We really need to have a statewide funding source for these costs. I mean, it's a statewide problem.
Water quality and the solutions to water quality bring to bear some very complex social issues. Technically, we know how to blue our rivers and our bays again. We know how to do that. The complications come in the socio and the economic policies necessary to get us there. So there are elements of the bill that are good steps, but when you have a $156 million problem and you authorize maybe $7 million, that's still, we're running a deficit, to put it in economic terms, that's going to be harder to catch up on in future years, because remediation, cleaning up polluted waters, is always much more expensive than preventing the pollution of waters.
It's a statewide issue. When you look at what's happening at on the Connecticut River watershed, you see that there are pollution concerns there. Lake Carmi, Lake Memphremagog, Lake Champlain. These are huge assets for the state of Vermont, and they are not only tourist attractions, but they are attractions for people who want to live here. And for us to have waters that are not clean really, I think, impacts our ability to attract people to the state and to encourage economic development.
We're grateful that the legislative body as a whole now recognizes that our water quality is threatened. It's not some faraway problem in the Great Lakes or in the Chesapeake or overseas in Asia. This is a problem right here in communities like St. Albans, Shelburne Bay, Highgate, Swanton, South Lake. This is a pervasive problem, and it's one that also exists outside the basin.
Over the past few years, the Lake Carmi Campus Association has taken on more of an advocacy role to help improve the water quality of Lake Carmi. And especially last year, we became very vocal, mainly because of the frustration over the declining water quality in Lake Carmi, due mainly to increased loads of phosphorus from the surrounding lands and the resulting blue-green algae blooms that plague the lake.
H.35 for us is really just the beginning. There's a lot more that could have been done, probably should have been done, but for many of us who are water quality advocates, we feel it is a landmark bill because it totally recognizes publicly Vermont's stance on the fact that clean water belongs to everybody.
Three of the highlights of the bill, as I have read it, is that it's going to provide education, outreach, and enforcement. And we need all three of those items to become reality in order for the water in our lake to change.
One of the biggest arguments was that the AAPs are there, accepted agricultural practices are there, but not a lot of people really know about them, or they just ignore them and there's no enforcement. So we want a very grassroots level where the education piece is there, the enforcement piece is there, that will come into a very large agricultural community and help us all keep our waters cleaner. That's what we're looking for.
There's a whole suite of conservation practices that the farmers can look at implementing. It includes no-till seeding, it includes contour plowing, it's installation of fencing to keep animals out of the waterways, it's improvements in their barnyards, it's, when appropriate, manure injection and other innovative manure management approaches, all of which need to be catered to the individual particulars of a farm, and when they are, they can make a big difference. And the good news, like cover cropping, that's really good for the farmer as well as it is for water quality. Increases moisture retention, increases the fertility and tilth of the soil while also protecting water quality. So those are a few of the many things that farmers can do, and many of them are doing them already. And we just need to have more farmers do it more often and more extensively.
I've traveled worldwide in my military career, and I've seen what polluted waters can do to a community, to a nation. It's a very scary thing. We've all thought that our future wars would be fought over resources, and water would be one of them, clean water. And that if we don't do something, we're just worsening it for the next generations. I mean, that's really what it's all about. This belongs to everyone.
There comes a time when people want to see action. You know, when you look up the St. Albans Bay area with all the green and blue algae, they want some action. And I represent about 127 miles of shoreline, and I know it's a big issue in my area. So I think it starts the process. It really is a commitment by the legislature. I'm pleased that we've made as much progress as we have this year, and I think it'll continue now that we're on the right track.
Rather than people continuing to view this as a liability, we can put Vermonters to work protecting our communities from floods, improving our beaches, improving our drinking water supplies with good jobs right here. If we're improving our back roads and our highway infrastructure, which are sources of pollution, those are engineering jobs, those are construction jobs. The same with downtown stormwater development. Again, depending on new development, we're talking architectural jobs, we're talking about drinking water treatment operators, wastewater treatment operators. It covers the whole spectrum. We think this is a phenomenal way to invest.
I just hope that everything that was said last fall when we got the ball rolling to get H.35 passed, that all the action teams that were to come to Lake Carmi to examine the watershed and to see where improvements could be made, hopefully they will come, hopefully they have come. Hopefully they've been there. I was told that a report should be issued in June, and I'm waiting with bated breath to see that report so that we can move forward and improve the lake.
Politicians listen to the people, and I do believe it is going to be us that has to make the difference. Just the people in the street, those who care enough to write to their legislature, those who care enough to write letters to the editor, those who care enough to come to events such as this fishing derby. I'm former military. We always use the term squeaky wheel gets the grease. So we're up at Lake Carmi yelling, yelling. We really want to bring the fact that Lake Carmi is the 4th largest inland lake in the state. It's beautiful, and if we can't fix Lake Carmi, a small lake, how are we going to fix Lake Champlain?
The public places its trust in the government to protect our common interest in water. And right now, the government, our government, from our select boards all the way on up through the legislature, people don't need to take my word for it, and as the messenger, I'm used to taking shots for that. But again, just look at the rivers after a rainstorm. If they're brown, then we're neglecting our responsibilities. Take a look at the bays. If there's a beach closed sign due to pathogens, if there's a beach closed sign due to toxic bacteria from algae, we're not doing our jobs. And we're doing a disservice to not only the current generation, but to future generations who are going to inherit a problem that we now know exists and we know how to fix it. And now we need to step up and own it.
Not much of a pike, but good fish today. It's a beautiful state. I grew up here. I went away and toured around the world in the Army when I was young and could have settled most anywhere. I could have settled in the D.C. area and making more than twice what I'm making now. But I need trees to outnumber people, and I need clean water to fish, and so that's why I came home.
I'm a Vermonter. I care about this state. Clean water is important to our human health and to our environmental health. And without clean water, we actually undermine our economy, we undermine our ability to enjoy where we live, we expose ourselves to potential health risks that we don't need. Clean water enhances our economy, attracts more people, enables us to live and enjoy the outdoors that we cherish here in Vermont all the more. And as a Vermonter and someone who's been, as I said, fishing 58 out of my 59 years, and I may have even fished in year 1, I'm not sure, it's absolutely critical to me as a Vermonter to want to have clean water in this state.